Introducing cooldowns for abilities was met with a mixed reaction, but despite that, Lavos is still one hell of a strong Warframe. Just the pace you get while having to use that alchemist desk to mix elementals to build up his damage makes him a tad slow versus some of the other nuke frames. But unlike them, Lavos has a much higher ceiling thanks to his fourth ability having innate condition overload. Set of abilities he has definitely makes him a complete Warframe and a self-sufficient Warframe, but he's hella more special than that. Any ability can deal any elemental damage, thanks to his passive that I like to call Alchemist's Desk. There are basically two ways you can build Lavos. You can mix and match anything you like with any ability, and that syncs so well with innate condition overload of his fourth ability. There are basically two ways you can build Lavos. One would be with a very high ability strength, making use of his strong set of abilities, and the other one would be more timid in terms of ability strength, but with lots of ability range and duration, which helps you use them as a primer for your weapons. He's naturally pretty tanky, so he's kinda a very good vessel to make your weapons work, as long as you equip Condition Overload or any galvanized mods that benefit from so much status. Second build is something that's more fitting for a Railjack captain, since his cooldowns carry over the Railjack abilities that makes him the best pilot there is. And that's my preferred way of using Lavos. Even if Railjack is still in its alpha stage, it's a fun change of pace and a rewarding bunch of missions. For that build, I used 2 Umbra mods to add armor and strength. With it, adaptation, just to make it a tad more tanky, lots of range with overextended and stretch, and 2 Archon mods. Archon mods work on all abilities, as long as you add that element to its damage. With Archon Continuity, you get a free corrosive status alongside Toxin, and Archon Vitality doubles heat procs. Heat being the base of that fourth ability makes that extra potent. Also, Archon Continuity makes it that much more justified to run an augment for his first ability that extends the range of it and mitigates cooldown of all abilities. I could go for more strength, but I like Prime Sure-Footed for comfort. I know he has a passive that can help with status immunity, but that's unreliable unless you run a companion with a synth mod set to spawn a bunch of orbs for you. Also, Mobilize is there because Mobilize is the best mod in the game. With the use of shards, I could definitely free up a slot to move Prime Sure-Footed in an Exila slot and add more ability strength, but since shards are a new thing and currently in limited supply, Lavos will have to wait a bit for that. Adding some casting speed with those shards would also be recommended. Arcane Grace takes the pressure off from constantly using your first ability to heal yourself. Panzer Wulpahala could also be a very good way of passively healing yourself. I mostly use Lavos as just a vessel for my weapons in Railjack. He can tank enough for me to fight with anything, even the highest level Voidstorms. Lavos' main drawback is his casting time. Each ability is not too slow to cast, but when you add that you need to hold 2 buttons for a second before casting each of the ability to add a secondary elemental to it, it does stack up. Which is probably a big reason why we don't see him much in public matchmaker, but I have no doubts that solo players enjoy him quite a bit. He just has everything you need. He's a bit slower to get it, but when you're solo, there's no pressure to rush forward ASAP. But Railjack is his home, and as much as I dislike telling others what they should do, if you are going to play Railjack and farm Railjack, you should get Lavos, as no other frame is nearly as good of a pilot as he is. If you don't care about abilities, and you just want a high HP captain for your Railjack, then using 3 Umbra mods is possible without an Umbra Forma, as long as you use rank 0 adaptation. Having lower rank adaptation only reduces its duration. It caps at 90% damage reduction regardless of its rank. If you use Lavos to prime enemies for your weapons, then Archon Continuity is recommended, as it makes it possible to do 3 different status effects with each ability. I think that's a no-no with Lavos is using Helminth to add abilities, because whichever ability you take out, you lose that elemental from the mix for all his abilities. To make it even worse, You cannot add elemental damage to your newly added abilities, so it's a complete waste of his entire kit. But if you don't care about his kit and you just want some ability on your Railjack captain, then be my guest. And that's about it for this one. I enjoy Lavos, but I mostly play him in Railjack. As much as cooldowns made Lavos less dynamic than some other Warframes, at the same cost, Lavos made Railjack more dynamic, because you're able to use more of your abilities without managing it in some weird way. So it's a fun one, I like using him there. Thank you for watching, subscribe to help the channel grow, and I'll see you in the next one.